in the first verse of the song that we've just sung or listened to was the line, "O great God of highest heaven, occupy my lowly heart, own it all and reign supreme, conquer every rebel power." What I wonder, do you think is a rebel power? It sounds like a military term, something to do with a battle or a conquest or war. Actually, it's referring to things which are too important to us, they become too precious to us. In our lives, we become attached to all kinds of things, not just people, but animals, things, activities, even ideas. Here are some of the things which I'm attached to. I'm going to show you 3 photos of each in sequence, and you have to see how quickly you can guess each one. So here's the first one. Did you get it? I love to watch films. My wife Patricia and I agreed when we got married that we wouldn't have a TV. So instead, we watch films projected onto a big screen, which is a good result. Here's the second one. Some of you might not recognize those specific ones, but I love to play board games. The challenge can sometimes be finding enough people who are prepared to listen to the instructions explained for 30 minutes. Here's the final one. I know that there are many keen photographers in the church, and several of them much better than me, but I love to be out in the countryside taking photos of landscapes and wildlife. I have to say, these aren't necessarily the most important things in my life. I haven't included my wife Patricia, for example, our families, even our home. But actually, the truth is, if I'm honest, that even these relatively trivial hobbies can potentially take an inappropriate hold on my thoughts, on the way I spend my time, the way I spend our money. And they can become stumbling blocks in my relationship with God and living out my faith in a way that glorifies Him. Through His Word and by His Spirit, God reveals to us these stumbling blocks. And actually, we'll see that a little bit in today's passage. But still, we need to be asking ourselves and asking each other what rebel powers might be lurking in our hearts and surrendering them to God. Chris and Nicoletta Meze are now going to read Jonah 4 for us.
Today's reading is Jonah chapter 4. But it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was angry, and he prayed to the Lord, and said, O Lord, is not this what I said when I was yet in my country? That is why I made haste to flee to Tarshish, for I knew that you are a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger and abiding in steadfast love, and relenting from disaster. Therefore, now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And the Lord said, You do well to be angry. Jonah went out of the city and sat to the east of the city, and made a booth for himself there. He sat under it in the shade till he should see what would become of the city.
Now the Lord God appointed a plant and made it come up over Jonah, that it might be a shade over his head, to save him from his discomfort. So Jonah was exceedingly glad because of the plant. But when dawn came up the next day, God appointed a worm that attacked the plant, so that it withered. When the sun rose, God appointed a scorching east wind, and the sun beat down on the head of Jonah, so that he was faint. And he asked that he might die, and said, "It is better for me to die than to live." But God said to Jonah, "Do you do well to be angry for the plant?" And he said, "Yes, I do well to be angry, angry enough to die." And the Lord said, "You pity the plant for which you did not labor, nor did you make it grow, which came into being in a night and perished in a night. And should not I pity Nineveh, the great city, in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know their right hand from their left, and also much cattle?"
Our next song is God Sits in the Highest Place. That will be a familiar song to many of us. It's about God's justice, sovereignty, and mercy. Unfortunately, there isn't a video with lyrics on it, but if you don't know the words, just listen and you'll soon pick up the chorus. Immediately after the song finishes, Ivan and Angela Cooper are going to lead us in prayer, and then Ed McMillan will preach.